You are listening to Ask An Asexual. This is part of the Ask Us series, a short-run podcast dedicated to breaking myths and stereotypes by asking real people. I'm Sheena, and I'm joined today by author and podcaster Heather Rose Jones and author Alex Woods. Thank you both for joining me today. Today we're talking about general sexual stuff. That's a very epic podcast title, but I couldn't think of anything better. Alright, so let's talk about your thoughts, ideas, history, anything you're willing to share about being asexual and specifically in relation to sex. So let's start with Alex. Alex, talk to us. Tell us about this advisory capacity you were in.
Oh God. I was the LGBTQ youth group leader, and then I was a leader for a LGBTQ group for a whole county. I came out in those years where you could see what HIV had done to the LGBTQ community, and I was friends with a lot of those who were suffering both from loss of partners because of HIV and from sadly a lot of young people who had managed to attract the vice to themselves because of different safe or maybe non so safe sex practices. And there I was selected to go on many courses, and the HIV courses led to the other safe sex courses, and then it led to me being sent to special courses like what is BDSM and so on. So I was the go-to person when somebody wanted to know something. I remember one day where I got a package at the office that contained 100,000 condoms. The problem was it was shipped to my work address instead of the LGBTQ headquarters. I was very red when I opened the package, and I had my coworkers standing around me, and they looked at me like, okay, what's your plan for the weekend? The other cool thing was I was supposed to take them to a big pride festival and to have the the airport officer open my bag to look what was inside there.
Oh, fun.
Yes. So my problem was all the time that I had to talk a lot about sex, about safe sex and sex practices, and me myself having no relations to it at all. I know the mechanics. I'm not stupid. I worked in healthcare for over 17 years, so but I couldn't relate really to why the people wanted to do this. Because my relation to sex is basically, in my younger years, I had to have a lot of sex because people told me to. And my other relation to sex is when I was in committed relationships that my girlfriends expected from me that we should have a very active sex life. And I can count on one hand, really, the times I really felt good about it and not pressured about it.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the common misconceptions around a lack of the sex drive, if you like, which is one of the things that we hear is that you've got some sort of hormone imbalance, for example, or doctors want to fix you by giving you, the pill because that'll put you on a regular cycle or whatever it is that they've decided is going to fix you. Have you experienced this?
Well, so, let's get back to the understanding that asexuality is defined by, feeling a different level of sexual response or sexual arousal. But it can be due to, it can be associated with a lot of different, I don't want to say causes, but a lot of different contexts. So there's no one answer. And of course, we keep coming back to this in constantly in the conversations. There is no one single way to be asexual. And, there are asexuals who, they're sex averse. They not only don't desire sex, but they actively do not enjoy it. They actively find it unpleasant. There are asexuals who are perfectly happy to enjoy sex with a partner, but they don't seek it out. There are asexuals who practice individual sexual experiences, but don't have the desire to have it with a partner. Perhaps they simply are not turned on by having sex with another person. It's like, okay, I'm going to enjoy my orgasm, but whether you are here or not is actually immaterial to how much I enjoy it. For me, it's simply that the physical actions of going through having sex with somebody don't turn me on. I may feel pleasant sensations in the process, but there's not that extra oomph that says, yes, more, more, more. There's not that sense of being here with this person doing this thing makes me want to do more of this, as opposed to, oh God, can we get this over with so I can read a book?
The ceiling must be painted soon.
Okay.
Those things.
Back in my 20s and 30s when I was dating and had not figured any of this out yet, and I just figured, well, I just need to get comfortable. I just need a chance to get comfortable. So there was always this constant tension when I was dating somebody of, they want to move on to having sex. I am not feeling the desire to have sex yet. But then I think, well, sure, she wants to do it. I'll go along with it, and maybe then I'll start feeling something. And instead, it just put me into a place where I felt like it was expected. It's like, well, you said yes once, so, we're going to, keep doing it. And that there wasn't a chance to step back and say, hey, this isn't doing it for me. It isn't doing it for me yet. Maybe this isn't working. Let's try a different approach. But I never got that understanding. I still remember one conversation with a woman I was dating. I think we'd been dating about a month, and she just came out and she said, so when are we going to have sex? I said, well, I'd really like to take it slow and wait a while. And she said, so what? You're talking about 3 months? I said, well, no, I was thinking more like maybe a year. And, well, we broke up pretty soon after that. I had not identified myself as asexual, but I did know that I was not feeling what I expected, what society had led me to expect to feel. And I didn't know how to make that happen. So a lot of what it ended up with was me pretending to enjoy sex, because at least then, we could finish up and, and I wouldn't have to be lying here pretending anymore. Believe me, I have sometimes thought about what my life would have been like if I'd been born 50 years earlier and ended up in a heterosexual marriage. And I would have been one of those, stereotypical suburban frigid women who lies there and takes it and never quite understands why she's desperately unhappy. Well, that being a lesbian, So it was that sense of, I'm supposed to be enjoying this and I'm not. I didn't necessarily think it was something wrong with me, but I never figured out how to make it be different.
Alex?
I always felt like I was this broken person who could never be fixed. That I was caught in this cycle where I would never come out of. As I said earlier, I was not often that I had intercourse with my girlfriends that I enjoyed it, and often I tried to avoid it by giving them what they wanted, and then I was like, I go to sleep now, bye. Because I just felt like I don't want to, I don't need to.
When Heather is speaking, does this resonate with you?
Yes. In many, many ways, absolutely. I think the difference for me was that the way I grew up, I was raised the way that you should be the nice girl who never says no, who always does everything for everybody else, but not for yourself. And that is the reason why I never said no. And this was the cycle I had to break in the end, because I was in my mid-20s and I had a breakdown because I felt like I'm destroying myself completely with what I'm doing. That is when I decided to end it. And sadly, then I got into a very, very abusive relationship with a woman who wouldn't accept this at all. After this relationship ended in a very bad way, I decided I would never do it again. And that is now 4 years ago. And I don't feel the urge at all to seek out a partner now, because I know I'm not at that point yet where I won't say no to when it comes to a physical relationship in a romantic relationship.
Yeah, and I want to point out that, to be fair to the women I dated back in my 20s and 30s, I was trying to find ways to say, I'm interested in you. I'm interested in developing this relationship. I want to be with you. I want to do things with you, just not those things. And if you don't have a vocabulary for making that distinction clear, they were probably just as confused as I was. It's like, she's giving me these mixed signals. It's like, she wants to date me, but she's always like pushing me off. She's always like making excuses. I got into some really weird dynamics where it felt like I was always being maneuvered into being the one who initiated a sexual encounter, because that would then mean that I was, in modern vocabulary, that I was consenting to it. Whereas it was always clear to me that it was the other woman who was the one who wanted to have sex, but in the same sense of wanting to go along, to be nice, to be cooperative, I always felt like I was maneuvered into being the one who initiated it in order to break that down, to break down that miscommunication. And that's not something really I can put on anyone else. And it's a dynamic I've seen in other parts of my life where, I feel like I am maneuvered into volunteering to do things for other people that I don't really want to do, but that's the person I'm expected to be. So it's not purely a sexual thing. It's a facet of my personality, and that's how it came out in relationships. But I want to emphasize, I have had a full, rich, and satisfying sexual life since I was a teenager. It just does not involve other people. I am very familiar with my sexual response and how to have fun. But adding another person into the mix makes it less enjoyable, not more enjoyable.
Okay. So you both brought up an interesting point about expectations. It's so interesting because I was doing some research and I watched a video of a male asexual, and he says that it's really tough being a male because there's these expectations on men to have this major sex drive, this virility, this go, go, go. But there's expectations on women too. Like, you talk about expectations of women going along with things, being nice, being accommodating. Do you feel that the social norms around being a woman is problematic for asexual people?
I would say probably the worst situation to be in is to be a female heterosexual asexual in a relationship with an allosexual man, because then the entire weight of history and sociology is putting you in a position where it's all your fault and you should just go along with it, and it doesn't matter if you don't enjoy it because that's just the way the world is. That would be the worst possible combination. But I will also say that modern lesbian culture is, to my perception, and part of this is, you see the things that are different from what, you feel, but my perception is it is very sexualized. There is a high level of sexualization of the culture and of the interactions. And, if you are not allosexual, it must be due to internalized homophobia. It must be, because you're not really as lesbian as you think you are. It must be because, it used to be, they called you frigid, and that's not a word anymore, but it's still, you're emotionally unavailable. That's what it is.
Yeah, that is a good one.
It takes away that asymmetry of the expectations of sex drive that are present in heterosexual relationships, but without actually mapping out the traditional expectations for women onto both parties.
I think also that especially my generation now, who are in the mid-20s, mid-30s, because of the LGBTQ and the lesbian culture, is now that often the sexual relationship in the dating phase or in the romantic phase starts so early, and if you are not willingly going into this, then it's over at once, because it's so much focused on it in the beginning without even getting to learning to know the person that you're dating. And it's so complicated when you are not only an asexual, but if you also have a medical complication. And I know this because of myself, of one of my illnesses that has led to an extreme damage, permanently chronic damage in my organs and operations. And I am in a group for those who have this illness. It's I have very bad endometriosis, so it's not only that I'm asexual because but that I also have an illness. If I would like to have a sexual relation, it hinders me because of pain, and it's not really accepted to have this. And I don't like that the lesbian culture just now portrays that something like this, neither asexuals or those with medical issues, don't exist. You don't see anyone writing about it. You don't see it on TV, and that's why people don't think about it.
Thank you both for joining me today. It's been a pleasure having you both. And I think all we need now is to say goodbye. So, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to Ask an Asexual. I'm Sheena, and I was joined today by Heather Rose Jones and Alex Woods. Check out the show notes to links about things discussed in this episode. If you enjoy this podcast, then come and talk to us on the Lesbian Talk Show chat group on Facebook. You can email us on podcast@thelesbiantalkshow.com or follow us on Twitter @lesbiantalkshow. You can also join our community of patrons and get exclusive content. Go to patreon.com/thelesbiantalkshow. The link is in the show notes. Find this and other exciting podcasts. All you need to do is search for The Lesbian Talk Show anywhere that you listen to podcasts.